Hello friends, and welcome to an adventure. So I have a number of projects on my I'd really like to make that costume list. And of course, inevitably they are projects that I don't have fabric for in my stash. So I took a little trip to the Toronto Fashion District and decided to take all of you along for the ride. The Toronto Fashion District is most known for funky, independent, alternative, and vintage clothing stores, but there is a section of Queen Street West between Augusta Avenue and Spadina Avenue that is home to a bunch of really cool independent fabric stores. So I packed my shopping lists, for there are several, my travel swatch books, water bottle, and comfy walking shoes, and headed off with my mum for a day of fabric treasure hunting. Now, parking in downtown Toronto can be an absolute nightmare, so my travel method of choice is to park at a subway station further up the line and take the train in. I recorded this section on location, but my microphone very helpfully decided not to record the audio, so you get me narrating over it instead. If you're taking the subway to the Fashion District, you want to get off at Osgoode Station. There are multiple exits to this station, and it can be very easy to get turned around. The first time I visited, I got out to Queen Street and headed off very confidently for about 10 minutes in the wrong direction. So my helpful tip is to first locate this gorgeous building, the Campbell House Museum, and once you're facing it, like so, head to the left. It's about a 10-minute walk to the fabric stores, or if you time it right, you can catch a streetcar. We walked and got sidetracked by a great new used bookstore where I picked up a couple of really cool resource books. Our official first stop is King Textiles on Spadina. They have an outlet store on Queen Street West as well, but we'll get to that later. They do have a set of stairs to get in and unfortunately no elevator, but once you're in, the aisles are wide enough to walk through fairly comfortably. This store is great for wandering. There are just aisles and aisles of gorgeous fabric options for every need. At this point, it was past lunchtime and we were pretty hungry, so we stopped at CJ Lunchbox, and let me tell you, this is a hidden gem. Everything was so fresh and the volcano roll was out of this world. 10 out of 10, definitely stop here. No trip to the Toronto Fashion District would be complete without a stop into Leo's Textiles. This is a high-end fabric store and the prices do reflect that. With my small budgets, I have yet to actually purchase fabric here, but just look at all the shinies. Daydreaming over, it's time to move on to a more budget-friendly option, aptly named Affordable Textiles. This store can confuse first-time visitors as it looks kind of like two different stores. They are the same company, but they are two separate buildings with different selections on either side. And if you ever hear me describe a fabric store as a cave of wonders, know that this is the kind of fabric store I'm talking about. We made a quick stop into Bling Bling Crystal and Bead store to pick up some seed beads. And then we stopped into the outlet version of King Textiles. This is a totally different selection from the main building and has more remnant sale options. The lady on staff that day was really knowledgeable, helpful, and encouraging as I toiled on my quest for super specific fabrics. This is also one of the most accessible stores in the Toronto Fashion District, with aisles that were wide enough to comfortably navigate, which is not always the case. Which I feel the need to take a little moment for a side note about accessibility. Most of these stores are at ground level, but a number of them had a step up to get in. Motorized doors are few and far between. I know there was one, possibly two, but that's about it. And almost all of the stores have very tight and squishy aisles. There tends to be a spectrum of accessibility when it comes to independent fabric stores, and I see this in the New York Garment District as well, that ranges between Cave of Wonders and Nutty Putty Cave. Just saying. And with that segue, since we are doing a full tour, I popped into Queen Textiles to show you around. Chuxing Textiles didn't want us filming inside, so you'll have to take my word that they have some stunning fabrics, and the aisles were probably the cleanest and most accessible of the stops we made. And then we come to my most favorite of all the fabric stores in the Toronto Garment District, Downtown Fabrics. And tragedy strikes. Somehow, despite Google and Apple Maps all saying that it should be open on Mondays, it was closed. I was low-key devastated because I was counting on one of the fabrics that they sell. Just know that if you want a great fabric store, Downtown Fabrics is amazing. I got the overlay for my Shindig Kaylee dress there, as well as the material for my Aragorn fantasy shirt, the taffeta and chiffon for my Judy dress, and the wool coating for my recent winter cloak and medieval hood. Guess I'm just gonna have to go back to Toronto sooner than I thought. We couldn't end on a low note, so we went back to Affordable Textiles for one last look around. And then, before hitting the road, we stopped for tea and dessert at La Gourmande. So now it's the next day, since I was too beat after getting home to talk fabrics, and I wanted to show you what I got. Since I don't get to Garment District very often, I tend to do this thing where I make a massive shopping list spanning 4 or 5 different projects so that I both don't forget anything and stay focused and don't overspend. However, when you're shopping for very specific projects requiring very specific fabrics, sometimes you end up buying less than you thought you might. I had 3 priority projects that I was primarily shopping for, and of those 3 projects, I found fabric for exactly 0. So that just means I have to do a bit of project shuffling and put a couple things on the back burner for now. However, there was another project I was shopping for, and somehow all the fabrics that I did buy are for that one, which is a project I'm not starting until next year. But it is an epic project, one of my dream costumes, and I am so excited. Which I guess that means it's time for an upcoming project reveal. In 2026, I'm going to be making, drumroll please, Elphaba's Act 2 dress from the Broadway production of Wicked. Ah! I am so unbelievably excited about this project, but it is going to be the most massive undertaking I've done so far. The skirt alone requires between 33 and 37 different fabrics, all cut in bias ruffles. And that's not even mentioning the bodice. I've already been quietly amassing some fabrics, so let's see what I'm adding to the collection from Toronto. From King Textiles on Spadina, we have this beautiful mossy green velvet. This will be for part of the corsety part of the bodice. This is an offcut that they got from an upholstery company, and since I didn't care that it was missing some selvage, they gave me 3/4 of a yard for the price of half a yard. I also got half a yard of this lovely black and silver lace for the skirt ruffles, and 3 yards of plum chiffon for the cape. I really want to go full no good deed with this look, so this will be perfect for dramatic swooshy cape while singing about Fiyero moments. From the King Textiles outlet store, I found these great remnant cuts, all of which will be going into the skirt. Elphaba's skirt is all about the textures and has a surprising amount of sparkles, so these are going to be perfect. From Bling Bling, I grabbed a big bag of black seed beads, which will be for the beaded appliques on the bodice. And in non-fabric purchases from BMV Bookstore, I picked up this fantastic book. It's more than just a biography, it's a definitive portrait about Edith Head, Hollywood's greatest costume designer. She was the inspiration for Edna Mode and did the costumes for iconic movies such as White Christmas, Sabrina, Court Jester, and Roman Holiday. I am very much looking forward to diving into this and learning more about her iconic career. And I also grabbed the definitive visual history of fashion, which is pretty self-explanatory, but the images and photos in here are stunning, and I think this will be very helpful in my fashion history research. So that was a little tour of the fabric stores in the Toronto Fashion District. I hope you enjoyed seeing all these gorgeous fabrics. I know I always have a great time admiring all the varieties, and if you have a personal favorite fabric store, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What makes it special for you? I'm gonna go add these fabrics to my swatch book, and I will see you soon with more geekery meets history sewing adventures.